Hey there. Welcome to your personalized deep dive all about rock climbing training. It looks like you're ready to take your climbing to the next level. And you've sent over some really great articles on the best workouts to help you do just that. We've got a guide to overall training, a gym routine tailored specifically for climbing gains, and even an article on how to train for both rock climbing and bouldering.
It's awesome that you're looking at all those different angles
Yeah,
because it really reflects how multifaceted training for climbing can be.
exactly. And you know what's interesting? One thing that struck me right away is how all three sources highlight this idea that many climbers hate a plateau in their training. They get stuck at a certain level and struggle to break through. So today, let's really explore how these sources offer solutions to help you break through those plateaus and reach new heights.
I'm all for that. And one of the first things that jumps out from the articles is that rock climbing, well, it's not just about upper body strength, as some people might think. It's a full body challenge that demands strength, endurance, and mental focus. You're basically a moving puzzle, figuring out how to use your entire body to solve the problem of the climb.
It's like a physical game of chess. And speaking of the whole body, let's talk muscles. I think there's a misconception that climbing is all about those bulging biceps.
Right. Well, biceps are definitely involved. It's way more nuanced than that. The sources do a great job of highlighting the importance of training, both the pulling muscles, your back biceps and forearms, and the often neglected antagonist muscles, which are the opposing muscles like your chest, triceps, and shoulders. Antagonist muscles help control and stabilize your movements, which is super important for injury prevention.
It's like a car needing both a powerful engine A and D, good brakes. I never thought about it like that before.
Exactly. Think about it this way. You make an awesome dynamic move on the wall, but if your triceps aren't strong enough to control the extension of your arm as you reach for the next hold, you could be looking at a pulled muscle.
Ouch, I definitely don't want that. So building that balanced strength is key. And speaking of building strength, the sources dive into some seriously effective workout styles.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because those workout styles really reflect the demands of different climbing disciplines. For instance, bouldering and wall climbing. While both forms of climbing actually place different demands on your body.
Okay, so walk me through that. What kind of workouts are we talking about for each?
Well, you've got your compound exercises, like pull-ups, squats, and deadlifts, which engage multiple muscle groups at once,
Yeah.
mimicking the full body movements of climbing.
Compound exercises are like the all-stars of climbing training.
You could say that. Then you have isolation exercise, like hammer curls for your forearms and triceps extensions, which target specific weaknesses.
Gotcha. So it's like fine-tuning those individual muscles.
Exactly. And let's not forget the importance of cardio. Whether you're bouldering or doing long climbs, stamina is key.
Makes sense. So how does all of this play into training for bouldering versus wall climbing?
Well, think about it this way. Bouldering is all about short bursts of power. You're tackling those challenging problems that require explosive strength. So a boulderer might focus on doing weighted pull-ups with 3 sets of 5 reps to build that raw power. They'd also want to incorporate interval cardio that mimics those intense short bursts of energy needed on the wall.
Okay. So short and intense for bouldering. What about wall climbing?
Wall climbing, on the other hand, demands more sustained endurance. Think about those long multi-pitch climbs where you're on the wall for an extended period. In that case, you'd want to do higher reps with slightly lighter weight, maybe 3 sets of 12 reps with bodyweight pull-ups to build muscular endurance. And longer, steadier cardio sessions like long runs or bike rides would be your go-to for building stamina.
That makes a lot of sense. It's all about matching your training to the specific demands of the type of climbing you're doing. You know, as we're talking about all of this, there's one thing that really jumps out from all three sources: grip strength.
Oh, absolutely. Grip strength is king in climbing. It doesn't matter how strong your back or legs are, if you can't hold onto the holds, it's the foundation.
So true. And one source even had a fascinating study showing that boulderers who incorporated plyometric exercises like box jumps and clap push-ups into their routine saw a significant increase in their dynamic power on the wall.
That's a great example of how those explosive movements translate directly to bouldering performance.
And the articles offer some really cool and unique exercises to build that grip strength. Hangboard training is one that comes up a lot. Can you explain what a hangboard is for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. A hangboard is basically a wooden board with a variety of different holds, like crimps, which are small edges you grip with your fingertips, slopers, which are rounded holes with less defined edges, and pinches, where you grip using your thumb and fingers opposing each other.
Oh. I've seen those at the gym. They look so challenging.
They definitely can be. But what's great about hangboard training is that it allows you to isolate and strengthen specific grip positions. You can target those micromuscles in your fingers and really build the endurance and strength you need to hold on to those tiny holds on the wall.
I love that. And the articles also mention campus board training. What's that all about?
A campus board is a slightly overhanging wall with wooden rungs spaced out vertically. It's used for training dynamic movements and power, as you have to move quickly and explosively between the rungs without using your feet.
Wow, that sounds intense. And then, of course, there's something as simple as monkey bars.
Right. Don't underestimate the power of play. Monkey bars are a fantastic way to build grip strength and endurance while having fun.
It's like being a kid again while getting super strong. Now, with all this talk about training, how often should we actually be hitting the gym or the hangboard?
That's a great question. And it's where listening to your body becomes super important. The sources suggest that the ideal training frequency varies based on your experience level. If you're a beginner climber, 1 to 3 strength training days per week is a good starting point. But as you gain experience and build a solid base, you can handle more.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And regardless of your experience level, all the sources really emphasize the importance of rest and recovery. You can't just train without giving your body time to repair and rebuild those muscles.
I know I'm guilty of overtraining sometimes. It's
Right.
hard to resist when you're feeling motivated.
I hear you. But remember, the goal is to progressively challenge your body, not push it to the point of breakdown. Overtraining can lead to burnout, plateaus, and even injuries.
So taking those rest days is actually key to getting stronger in the long run.
Absolutely. And speaking of the long run, let's dive into how to tailor your training even further based on your specific goals and climbing disciplines.
Okay, so we've talked about the different types of training and how they relate to bouldering versus wall climbing. But how can you really fine-tune your routine based on those specific disciplines?
What's fascinating here is that even small tweaks to your training can make a significant difference in your performance on the wall. Remember, bouldering is about those explosive bursts of power, so you might incorporate more plyometric exercises, like box jumps or clap push-ups, to train those fast-twitch muscle fibers. You'd also want to emphasize those weighted pull-ups with lower reps, focusing on maximal strength.
So it's like training for a sprint, short and intense.
Exactly. And your cardio would follow a similar pattern, high-intensity intervals that mimic those bursts of energy on the bouldering wall.
Gotcha. So what about those of us who are drawn to the endurance challenge of wall climbing? How should we be tailoring our training?
For wall climbers, it's all about building that stamina and muscular endurance. So instead of those heavy-weighted pull-ups, you might focus on doing more reps with your body weight. Think 3 sets of 12 reps instead of 3 sets of 5. You're still building strength, but you're also training your muscles to work for longer periods.
Makes sense. It's like training for a marathon versus a sprint.
Precisely. And your cardio should reflect that as well. Long runs, bike rides, or even hikes will help build the cardiovascular endurance you need to tackle those extended climbs.
It's all starting to come together now. You know, as we talk about tailoring these routines, I'm reminded of something the sources touched on. The mental game of climbing. It's not just about physical strength, right?
Absolutely. The mental aspect of climbing is just as crucial as the physical. One source even compared route reading to a mental puzzle. You have to visualize your moves, anticipate challenges, and adapt on the fly. It's like you're playing chess with the wall.
And then there's the whole fear factor. I know for me, the higher I get, the more my mind starts to race. How can we train our minds to stay calm and focused under pressure?
That's such an important question.
Yeah.
And the sources actually offer some great techniques for managing those fears and cultivating a focused mindset. One technique that came up repeatedly was visualization. Before you even get on the wall, spend some time visualizing yourself successfully completing the climb. Imagine yourself moving smoothly, confidently, gripping those holds, and reaching the top.
So it's like creating a mental blueprint for success.
Exactly. And another powerful technique is deep breathing. When you feel those nerves kicking in, take a few deep, slow breaths to calm your nervous system and bring yourself back to the present moment.
It's like hitting the reset button on your mind.
Exactly. And it's not just about managing fear, it's also about cultivating focus and concentration. Climbing requires intense focus, especially on those challenging routes where you have to think several moves ahead.
It's like you're in a flow state, completely absorbed in the moment.
Yes. And one of the sources suggested practicing mindfulness techniques, like focusing on your breath or the sensations in your body, to help train your attention and stay present.
So we're talking about training both our minds and our bodies to be strong and resilient climbers.
Absolutely, it's a holistic approach to the sport.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about those incredible climbers who make it look so effortless. It's inspiring, but also a little intimidating. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by all this information and maybe even a little intimidated by the challenge?
It's totally understandable to feel overwhelmed. There's a lot to learn and master in climbing, but remember, everyone starts somewhere. Even the most accomplished climbers were once beginners, fumbling their way up the wall.
That's a good reminder. So where should someone even begin?
My advice would be to start with a solid foundation of basic strength training exercises. Focus on mastering those compound movements like pull-ups, squats, and planks. Make sure you're using proper form to avoid injuries.
Okay, so build that strong base first. What then?
Once you feel comfortable with those basic movements, you can start incorporating more specialized exercises like hangboard training or campus board work. But don't rush into it. Start slowly, gradually increasing the intensity and duration of your training.
So listen to your body and don't push it too hard too soon.
Exactly. And remember, climbing is a journey, not a race. It's about challenging yourself, having fun, and celebrating those small victories along the way.
I love that. It's not just about reaching the top, it's about the process of learning and growing.
Precisely. And one thing that really resonated with me from these articles is the emphasis on community. Climbing is often seen as an individual sport, but in reality, it thrives on the support and encouragement of others.
Oh, totally. I've met some of the most amazing people through climbing. Everyone is so supportive and willing to share tips and advice.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to reach out to more experienced climbers. Ask questions and learn from their experience. And share your own journey as well.
It's like we're all in this together, cheering each other on.
And that sense of community can make all the difference, especially when you're facing a challenging climb or feeling discouraged.
So to recap, we've covered a ton of ground today, from muscle groups and workout styles to grip strength and the importance of rest and recovery, and even the mental side of climbing.
It's been an exhilarating climb through these sources, and I hope our listener is feeling inspired and empowered to take their training to the next level.
Me too. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to you, our listener. What's one thing that stood out to you from this deep dive? What resonated with you the most?
And more importantly, what's one action you can take this week to put some of this knowledge into practice? Maybe it's adding a new exercise to your routine, trying a visualization technique, or even just reaching out to a fellow climber for advice.
Remember, even small changes can make a big impact. Maybe it's adding a few sets of hangboard training to your routine, or incorporating a new core exercise. Or maybe it's committing to a visualization practice before your next climb.
Every step counts on the journey to becoming a stronger, more confident climber. And, one of the things that struck me as we were talking is how much emphasis the sources placed on listening to your body.
Right. They really hammered that home.
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of training and pushing your limits. But sometimes the best thing you can do for your progress is actually rest.
It's like they say, sometimes you need to take a step back to take 2 steps forward.
Exactly. So pay attention to those signals of fatigue, soreness, or even pain. Don't ignore them. Rest when you need to. Fuel your body with nutritious foods. And don't be afraid to modify exercises or seek guidance from experienced climbers or trainers.
There's no shame in taking a rest day or asking for help. We're all in this together, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of being in it together,
Yeah.
I love how these sources really encourage a sense of community and shared learning. There's something special about the climbing world. The camaraderie, the encouragement, the shared passion for pushing limits.
It's so true. Even though climbing can be seen as an individual sport, it really does thrive on that sense of community.
Whether it's cheering each other on at the gym, sharing beta on challenging routes, or simply swapping stories about epic climbs. That connection is what makes climbing so much more than just a workout. It's a lifestyle, a passion, a way of life.
Beautifully said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into rock climbing training. We've covered a ton of ground today, from muscle groups and workout styles to grip strength and the importance of rest and recovery, and even the mental game of climbing.
I hope you're feeling fired up and ready to tackle those climbing goals.
I know I am. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. What one exercise will you try this week to level up your climbing game?
Think about it. Pick one thing you can commit to and make it happen. We believe in you.
And hey, we'd love to hear about your climbing journey. Share your training wins, those aha moments, and maybe even a picture of that challenging route you finally conquered. Use the hashtag the deep dive on social media, and let's connect.
We're all in this together. And the more we share and learn from each other, the stronger we'll all become. So get out there, climb on, and most importantly, have fun.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep climbing to new heights.